Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Dare Me. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Obviously, continuing with the, big secret from last episode. And I think it's so interesting how they started off with, the whole conversation of, what is the definition of desire? Mutual destruction. And I think that's kind of very obviously, pessimistic and very dark definition of that word. I think that was kind of interesting. But it does seem like, in a lot of times, I feel like desire does kind of get thrown and used in a negative light. I feel like desire is never always a bad thing. I feel like it can be a good thing, but I feel like a lot of things tend to lean is what I'm trying to say, sorry, more towards that negative side of things. And I just think that's kind of interesting. But obviously, this is about the whole, Will and Colette situation. And I think that, obviously it's like Addie and Beth now knowing that secret. And now it's like, okay, so it's like, they know. And it's so interesting because Beth doesn't even hide it, because literally the entire episode, she's kind of like making little winks and nods towards it, because the only person that's going to understand like what she's saying is Addie, but no one else is going to get the context of it. It's almost like she's making a joke, an inside joke that no one else is a part of. And the fact is, Colette was kind of like, all right, let's keep it as is. Fact of the matter is, we're a squad. We look after each other, right? The fact of the matter is, I don't get all up in your business. Appreciate you kept mine quiet. And the fact is, Beth is just, I think it's because Beth is so pissed at Colette because she looks at Colette as a hypocrite. Once again, it's because of her own personal family situation. Her dad being the cheater that he was, literally cheated on her, it's not like, oh, he cheated on her mom and that was it. It's like he cheated on her too, because it's like you literally went and had another family. Like that's, and so I think she's not too fond of cheaters. So when she looks at Colette, she thinks of her dad and it kind of pisses her off. So I think for her, she probably can't really get back at her dad the way she wants to. So, it seems like Colette kind of gets all of her hate. To be fair, Colette came in kind of strutting around. It's like, you're the coach and everything, but this is my squad. You took it from, once again, she identifies with this squad and it kind of had that taken from her. Obviously, like Colette's kind of made her shitless. So that's what she's kind of all about it. But Addie is like, no, we got your back, coach. Because she's not trying to destroy Colette's life. It's like, your business is your business. I'm not going to, because it's something I talk about, which I'm not, because even this episode made me go, because I brought it up last episode, like, did Beth kind of like what she said about Addie, like Addie and Colette, is it pure admiration or does she kind of have a thing for her? I mean, I guess that's the point of like admiration could slide in that, it could easily go in that direction, but I'm kind of, I flip back and forth, I'm like, I think it is 100% just admiration because she's kind of obsessed with Colette in a sense of who Colette is and just what she herself wants for her life. Because look at, and it's something I didn't really take note of in the first episode like I should have, but it's like the entire time it's like, oh, coach says it, coach said this, that, it's like she lives and dies by Colette's words. So it's like, because I think, it's kind of interesting because I think Addie sees herself in Colette and Colette sees herself in Addie, so it's such an interesting dynamic. And this whole situation, it's made things complicated because for Addie, it's like the fact of the matter is you're just, you're doing things until you get bored. And so now, like, this whole situation is putting a rift in their friendship. I mean, granted, last episode there was a rift because Addie, it's like, she kind of doesn't want to go with the flow with what Beth is. Like, Beth is kind of stuck in her ways of just like, this is who she is and she wants to party it up. But for Addie, it's like, that's cool and everything, but she doesn't want that every night. She wants kind of something for herself because she feels like when you're kind of stuck in that circle, you're kind of losing your identity. And it's kind of like she's figuring herself out. She's trying to find herself, but she kind of feels like she can't do that when she's around Beth. And that's kind of something Colette's kind of getting to. Like, you need to kind of, do things on your own. Don't let things come to you. Kind of, you want something, kind of go out and kind of search it and do it yourself, type of situation. So, and it's kind of interesting because I think that's the whole point Beth is making the entire episode of like how she's trying to replace Addie because she knows how much it's like, oh, you're still my girl, right? But it's like the entire episode, what she's doing, she's kicking it with Riri. She's making sure because she knows that Addie has her phone. I was so curious of what she was going to do because she was like, no, go ahead and, there was one point in time you would trust me. But here, the fact of the matter is, if you don't trust me, you want to look through. But Addie was like, I trust you. But ended up sneaking away her phone. I'm like, you're going to be the number one suspect. I didn't know, like, if I was her, I would have kind of went about that a little differently. I wouldn't have just, I'm jumping all over the place. I would have never given her phone back like that. I mean, granted, I wouldn't be in that particular circumstance, but like, if I were in that circumstance, I wouldn't have given her phone back. I would have been like, I don't know, because legitimate, because even she's like, okay, yeah, like, Beth knows I have her phone. She winks and nods to it because it's super apparent. But the fact of the matter is, which obviously it's like, that I know, but neither one of us is really going to admit what's really going on right now. Because I think there's some part of Addie still trying to salvage what kind of remains of their friendship. And Beth, like I said, that's why I think she spends so much time with Riri, just to kind of get back at her, just being like, you're supposed to be my girl and everything. But I guess even last episode, obviously that was the whole point. She felt Addie slipping away from her, and now, so that's a whole complicated mess of its own. The fact of the matter is, she tries to, search through Beth's phone, because the whole thing is Beth is like, I don't have the video. I mean, it's like, if there was some video, like, she keeps teasing it like, oh, if there was a video, I'd share it or whatever. But it's like, no, pictures are worth 1,000 words, essentially. So it's like, you can talk all you want, but it doesn't mean anything without proof. But it's like, there are no pictures. You slap the phone out of my hand too quickly. But then it's like, obviously Addie couldn't believe her, just because the fact of the matter is, Beth could make herself seem a little more convincing. But the fact of the matter is, she did all that because she was trying to test Addie, because it's like, oh, you're my girl and everything, right? And that's kind of the thing. And I guess that's kind of the flip there too. It's like, once again, it's kind of like, you would have always had my back. So it's almost like Beth saying, like, you would have kind of been very ride or die, but it's almost kind of like, I'm kind of like, it seemed like in their friendship, she was kind of more in charge. And it seems like her bond with Beth has kind of switched over to her, Addie's bond with Colette. So that's why I'm kind of like, it almost puts into question their friendship and their relationship, making it seem like you kind of did what I say. You kind of took my word as gospel, and now apparently my word's not good enough for you. You feel suspicious of me. It's like, we used to have this bond, but I guess we don't have that anymore. But it's like, she could have helped that along, but she played along with it just because she wanted to know, like, whether Addie really had her back or not. So I'm sure she actually left her phone on purpose. Like, maybe because there was a part of her believing, Addie wouldn't take it, but then it's like, she took it, So it's like, it's interesting too, because we ended up finding out her password to her phone was Addie. I did like the attempts, but regardless, you can see that Addie started feeling bad about it, especially because she saw videos of her and Beth. It's like, almost like, oh, simpler times, but now things are complicated. But then it's like, oh, wait, there's this like hider hole. It's kind of like, I guess it's kind of like an app or whatever for like hiding stuff or whatever, but she can't get in, so she gets home dude, what's his name, Jordy, to help her out and everything. But then it's like, oh, they find like a video in the trash, so it's like, oh, okay. So Addie's like, look at you, Beth, you tease, gives back the phone and everything. So it's like, I know all your dark secrets. It's like, I wouldn't be so sure that. So I'm like, the moment she said that, I was like, you got something. Whether it's a picture or video, you got something. So it begs the question, did she only trash that video because I guess in that instance she started, but then like it ended up stopping? Or maybe she cropped it. Maybe she knew that Addie might find it, so she put that there just in case Addie ever found it, just so Addie would stop looking. Or maybe it's just because she got two videos. In that one instance, she was trying to record, but, well, no, because if you look at the original video, it does seem like it's a continuation of that. So she had to have edited it and then trashed it and then just kind of, I don't know, she was going to do something with it. I don't know. Maybe she was going to keep some of it on her phone to be like oh, look at this. You thought it was going to be something. And then later on kind of be like, oh, actually it is something, and kind of reveal the whole thing. Like it's supposed to be like a two-step process of like I don't know whether that was supposed to be for Addie or for Colette, the kind of tease aspect to it. But regardless of all of that, it seemed like I kind of get the feeling like that might have been kind of like what she was going for, but we'll see. This whole Beth situation is really interesting too, because we see that she kind of basically guilts her dad into giving her more money, because she's manipulating him in the sense of like, oh yeah, like, oh, I get it, right, Dad? It's you're sorry about what happened and it's never going to happen again. He's like, right, kiddo. The fact of the matter is, it's like basically it seems like he's spending, like, rather than actually trying to have a relationship with her, like, and really rather than trying to, in his own mind, he's trying to make amends. He's trying to be like, oh, I'm sorry I kind of abandoned you a little bit and kind of have another daughter, but you're still my girl after all. And it's almost interesting because you can almost make parallels to that type of relationship, to kind of her weird relationship with Addie, in that sense of like, oh, you're my girl, right? You're always gonna be, there's almost like a little bit of a transference there if you read too deeply between the lines, and that's kind of like, it's almost, it's almost like her complicated relationship with her family, obviously, in turn complicates, the rest of her relationships as well. They kind of, your home life does affect how you interact and treat other people, and that's why Beth acts the way she does. It's just because of her kind of super messed up home life, especially because it's like all that money she got. She's like, she goes to her mom and hands it to her. It's like, see, I told you he'd pay up more. She's like, oh, look at my girl using what she's got or whatever. And I'm like, that's super messed up. It's like it's almost like you're using your daughter to manipulate your ex, and that's super messed up, putting your daughter in the middle of all that dysfunction. And you can tell it's just kind of like she's just smiling, and then she turns around and it kind of goes away. Because I guess she's kind of riding that high of feeling good, but then it just makes you, it's like that feeling of just kind of giving the middle finger to your dad and like, ha, I got you for your money. Like you're trying so hard to make up for what you've done, but it's never going to be enough. So haha, pay up, but it actually kind of makes you feel sadder, I think. In her case, yeah, it's just kind of like, this is where they stand. And I don't know, man. It's a messed up situation. And especially that line later on where Addie and her mom are looking out the window at her dad and Tassie, and it's like, oh, we could have just moved. And her mom says a line of, but then they would win, and we can't have that. I'm like, so that's what this is all about to you? Like, that's so messed up. Like, it's like, oh, but we can't let them win. We're gonna be like the first. It's almost like a competition of the first person who moves is the loser, and so it's like, oh, we can't let them win. It's like we got to show them that we're fine and dandy by ourselves. But it seems like you're not. It seems, especially her mom, seems like, let's be firm here. Kind of seems like her mom's a hot mess. I mean, granted, circumstances like that would kind of break a person. So it seems like her mom's not 100% well. Like I said, just the way she was acting last episode after they kind of shacked up and everything made me go, like, I don't know what that is. I don't, but there's definitely some very deep underlying issues there. And so, like I said, it plays its role in understanding why Beth is the way she is. Like, maybe if they had moved away, weren't kind of staring at, because I'm sure for her, Beth is looking at that being like, that's kind of the perfect family. That should be what our family looks like. But it's almost like a somewhat stable family over here with Tassie's family, and then you have Beth and her mom kind of being this almost broken, dysfunctional family, like, literally across the street from each other. It's like literal night and day of just kind of like, and so I think once again kind of feeds into why she hates Tassie as much, which they also have Tassie Colette's kind of pushing Tassie to kind of be a top girl and, in the pyramid, the person that gets lifted up and everything, but it's like, even Addie's kind of fighting against that, but I think for Addie, it's because obviously she's still trying to look after Beth because Beth is her girl, because she knows how much that's going to bother Beth, because also she remembers last episode, it's like, oh, she was literally going to try and make, Tassie fall, she knows, like, the underlying issues there, and that it's like she's trying to look after, but it's like, Colette, it's like the fact of the matter is this isn't just about one girl, we're kind of one unit, we kind of have to think and feel and be that, so... What I also think is interesting, too, is the fact is that Colette had to take time to be... Because obviously, it's like, because obviously the competition is important to Addie. And, Colette was like, is this really that important to Beth? Is it as important to her as it is to you? And I think Addie kind of doesn't... Because it's hard to really say what... Because it seems like Beth doesn't really care, It seems like she likes this squad, but it seems like that's more of a power and control thing. Like, being the top, the best of the best. If we get there, I want it to be because of me. I don't want it to be because of some coach, because this is my squad. This is her squad. And like I said, it's kind of like a power tripping type of situation, but Addie kind of wants it. She wants to go to, because this is, it's one of those things in life. You want it, you kind of got to go get it. And it's that type of thing. So she's trying to kind of get the squad back in line. So it's like, hey, so we can get this because that's what she wants. But it was that moment of Colette being like, what's happening between me and Will, it's not what you think. It's like, why do you, I mean, I guess because it's kind of interesting because it's like, why do you feel the need to explain to them? Once again, I think it's because she sees a little bit of herself. Because I think that's going to be the interesting element. Is the fact is, rather there being like a distance between like, oh, I'm the adult in this situation. There's some separation here of like those lines are blurring too heavily because now Colette's looking at Addie as more of a friend, and Addie's looking at Coach as more of a friend rather than like the adult figure in this situation. There should be boundaries, but those boundaries are quickly disappearing, which that's obviously going to be furthering this whole complicated, mess. But I just thought that was kind of an interesting thing. And obviously, she tries to break things off with Will and everything because it's like, and then he makes this comment about like her back in school and everything. It's like, oh, so you went to school together. And obviously he kind of explains that later on to Addie, because the fact is he always had a thing for her and they had their moment, but for whatever reason, they went down two separate paths. She wanted certain things out of life. He wanted certain things out of life. So here we are. She's married. It seems like she's only been married for like the past 4 years, which now Beth found out like, oh, wait. Not only... Because I think it's kind of like... I think it's... Because Beth didn't know about her having a family. The fact of the matter is Beth was more so than anything with the whole... I said all that, but like... Her animosity for Colette got intensified the moment she found out she was a cheater. Because at first it's kind of like, oh, it's so scandalous. Like the fact of the matter is we're supposed to act a certain way and you're an adult out there kind of like sleeping in a truck at kind of like a place that kids come to get drunk and just like hang out and party and stuff like that. So that's why I'm thinking like that's what kind of annoyed her. Just kind of like, once again, the hypocrisy. But now the hypocrisy even more. Because I forgot about that, right? She didn't know until she met Matt. It's like, wait. Colette's married? Oh, so she's a cheater. She seems so free. Doesn't seem like marriage type. And Matt just kind of like, all right. So, and there is that part where she was going to go over to Will's, but she stopped herself because it's like, yeah, I'm married. I can't do this. I have this family. So it's that thing of like, I guess it's like, maybe it's a thing of life kind of happened where it's kind of like, maybe she felt like, this is kind of where I need to be. Maybe whether it was family pressure or just societal pressures. Maybe she felt like I need to settle down. Maybe it's that thing of like, you never felt like you could get back what you lost. So it's like, sadly, Matt's kind of like, but he's a good replacement. He's kind of a good like, sadly, it might be that type of situation. No judgments. It's just kind of like, when you're not with the person that you feel like you should be with, and in her case it's Will, and in Will's case it's her, then maybe, you kind of make a tendency to maybe settle, it's how she's in her situation she's in. I mean, to be fair, they've only been together, like I said, for 4 years, so I don't know. I am interested to kind of dive into that more of like, why didn't they ever kind of find each other? I wonder, is this something, I guess it got rekindled the moment she came back to town. Like I said, that old flames there and everything, but still, I'm curious, to kind of dive into that more. And once again, Addie's kind of in the middle of this weird adult situation because it's like Will's kind of explaining this to her, and it's like, once again, boundaries. But once again, that's the lines. Because even her mom's like, was that like a Jehovah's Witness or something? It's like, no, he's a recruiter. Mom, don't even worry about it. Because now it's kind of like some older dude is just, talking to my daughter at night in the street. I'm going to ask some questions, I mean, that's what I'm saying with like, Addie's mom is kind of like, well, her being a cop and everything. They also keep note of like, Addie knowing where her mom keeps her gun and everything. I'm like, well, that's definitely gonna play a role in something later on. We'll ultimately have to wait and see what, but still. And then there's the whole situation of Addie going over to Colette's place. Once again, the boundaries. I mean, I feel like you typically wouldn't be once again, I don't know anything about this world of cheerleading, so I don't know if that's something that's okay. But, part of me is thinking like maybe it's okay because it's it's Addie and Colette, her being a female coach and everything. Maybe that's definitely okay, but it's just interesting. I mean, I don't know why. Like, I'm sure it's not that big of a deal, but just in my mind, I'm like, is that ethically okay? I don't think it would be, but I mean, it is what it is, I guess. Her husband, it seemed that it was like, oh yeah, go inside. So I'm like, I guess that's okay. Once again, I don't know what the ethical bounds were in that situation. I feel like that'd just be that feels like a no-no, but like I said, maybe it's different. If it was just like a regular teacher and the opposite sex was going on type of situation, and like if it was a male teacher and a female student, maybe the circumstances are different, but because it's a coach and their student, and like I said, I still feel like that's a bit of a gray area. Not even a gray area. I still feel like that's a little more black and white, but like I said, regardless. But the fact is, Colette's there. I mean, Colette and Addie are having that casual conversation, and it's like, and like I said, that boundary of Colette being like, hey, like, don't miss your second chance. Don't worry, I'll look after your kid. You go have your affair. I'm like, once again, showing that Colette is letting things kind of skew a little too much. But it's like, because for her, I think it's a thing of like, I'm married, I have a kid, I have responsibilities. I can't really be going off just kind of chasing this flame. But, I think that's so interesting. But the fact is, Addie's like crawling into bed, to feel the pillows and the sheets against her skin, walking through the closet. So I think it's a thing of like, Addie, like I said, it's that admiration that I think almost borderlines obsession. Maybe not quite there yet, but more so like this is the life that Addie kind of wants. She looks at Colette and it's like Colette is who she wants to be. So it's almost interesting, like I said, because Beth is kind of pulling away from her while Addie's also doing the same thing. But like I said, neither one is kind of willing to admit that that's what's happening. But it's an interesting circumstance, to say the very least. And then to have the whole thing with Beth at the end, it's like, yep, she totally has a video. Not surprised there. The big question then becomes, what is she going to do with it? Beth kind of being a little Cheryl Blossomy, if I had to make a comparison, kind of feels like she kind of goes even above Cheryl, which is saying a lot. I'm curious to see what that kind of ends up being. Like, I know that's going to get out, which is like you're going to destroy someone's marriage, and it's just kind of, but it's like, it might just be like she likes being able to have that power and that control, so she might not actually do anything with it, but I'm like, she's going to, she has to. And then obviously we're seeing that flash forward of like someone walking forward and there's blood on like the carpet or whatever, but obviously you're trying to take note of like, okay, so whose shoes could it be? Well, it's like, obviously it's someone from the squad, because it's like Colette, Addie and Beth all kind of have that same white tennis shoe, but that's kind of everyone's shoes, right? Or that's supposed to just be like they're the specific ones with those shoes. But regardless, it's like things obviously get well out of hand. The question is, what are the circumstances around that? I'm curious to actually see where all this ultimately ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.